Blanket Jackson, whose real name is Prince Michael Jackson II, was born February 21, 2002. And ever since his precarious world debut 9 months later, fans have been borderline obsessed with details about the King of Pop's youngest child. Secret mother. In 2003's documentary Living with Michael Jackson, the pop legend opened up about Blanket's mother.
I used a surrogate mother or my own sperm cells. I had my own sperm cells in my other 2 children. They're all my children, but I used a surrogate mother. And she doesn't know me, I don't know her.
Michael says Blanket's mom was chosen based on her health, her good vision, as well as her intellect. He also claims Blanket's mother is black. Although there are no public records about Blanket's mom, that hasn't stopped the internet from theorizing on who she really is. The prevailing theory comes from a dubious 2009 Mirror article, reporting that a pretty Latino nurse surrogate, but not egg donor, named Helena was paid $20,000 and lavished with gifts, generous expenses, and staff to see to her needs. Still, it's pretty much pure speculation. Behind the name. For years, Michael covered his children's faces in public in order for them to have their own life without their father, according to eldest son Prince. Blanket's head covering was usually, yes, a blanket, leading many to think this was the reason for the child's odd nickname, but it actually goes a little deeper than that. Michael said he gave his son the nickname because it was an expression he used for his family. A blanket is a blessing, and that calling someone Blanket is a way of showing you care. But for Blanket, the nickname has since lost its luster. He allegedly changed his nickname to BG as of June 2015, according to Radar Online. The next MJ. In a preview for the film Remembering Michael, Blanket's grandfather, Joe Jackson, talks about the striking similarities between his son and grandson.
They also said there would never be another Michael Jackson. And I say we already have one, but he just has to be trained.
In response to backlash over the possibility of Joe grooming Blanket, or any of Michael's kids, for potential music careers, a rep for the Jackson family told TMZ that producer Grandma Katherine Jackson hopes fans don't think anyone like Joe or the family is pushing the kids. Dance moves. During the few times Blanket has appeared in public, he certainly made a splash, such as the Michael Forever tribute concert in October 2011. But according to People, then 9-year-old Blanket's real performance took place backstage, where he was caught dancing and spinning, and it was like an exact Michael Jackson dance. Custody battles. Though Catherine, Michael Jackson's mother, and Debbie Rowe, the biological mother of Prince Michael and Paris, reached a custody agreement relatively quickly after Michael's death in 2009, controversy over custody of the famous brood didn't stop there. In 2012, following a bizarre incident involving Catherine's alleged kidnapping, cousin TJ Jackson, Tito Jackson's son, stepped in and took over temporary custody of all 3 of Michael's kids. A joint custody agreement between TJ and Catherine was eventually arranged, but the drama continued. In 2014, sources supposedly close to Rowe told TMZ that she had changed her mind and decided Catherine was way too old to serve as guardian, and TJ was on tour and away from the kids for long stretches, leading to the possibility that she may petition for custody of all 3 kids at some point, even though Blanket is not her biological child. While Prince Michael and sister Paris no longer require legal guardianship, Blanket, who turned 15 in 2017, is reportedly still under the joint custody of Catherine and TJ. Living alone. In 2017, sources supposedly close to Paris told TMZ she was deeply concerned her little brother Blanket is essentially living alone. The accusation sounds similar to Rowe's alleged concerns from 3 years earlier, with sources claiming that Catherine and TJ's long absences from the Calabasas, California residence result in Blanket sometimes living without real family. Page 6 also painted Blanket's current living situation as solitary, reporting that his days consist of school followed by martial arts practice, then evenings playing video games in a mansion that boasts a part-time chef, 3 housekeepers, and a 5-person security team who rotate shifts. What's next? Though he has no official social media presence, the Instagram account BG Jackson Daily purports to be a tracker of the youngest son of Michael Jackson and indicates that he's living a relatively normal teenage life. Whether Blanket or BG becomes the pop royalty that his grandfather and uncle are predicting remains to be seen. For now, it's just nice to see he hasn't succumbed to the problems of other celebrity offspring.
Prince and Michael Jackson were constantly compared, and rumors of a rivalry between the two pop legends have long been reported. Since they both passed away, others in the music industry have shed light on their famed rivalry. Here's everything we know about Michael Jackson and Prince's relationship. By the mid-80s, after Purple Rain and Thriller were both released, the Purple One and the King of Pop were at the height of their careers. So it's kind of amazing to hear that they might have actually collaborated back then. If only they could have gotten along. When Michael Jackson was working on Bad, he and producer Quincy Jones invited Prince over to Jackson's house to talk about the two possibly duetting on the title track. However, judging from Jones's account, the vibe between the two superstars was rough from the start. Jones spilled the beans in a no-holds-barred interview with GQ, saying that Prince strangely taunted Jackson as soon as he arrived at his home. The famed producer said, Prince came in and he had an overcoat on, and he had a big white box labeled Camille. He called Michael Camille. Then, as if it couldn't get any more awkward, it did. Jones continued, the box had all kinds of stuff, some cufflinks with Tootsie Rolls on them. Michael was scared to death. He thought there was some voodoo in there.
That's stupid.
You're stupid.
Despite Jones's best attempts to make sure everyone was comfortable at the meeting, some of the small talk quickly became a big problem. According to Jones, Michael said, I never been to Minneapolis. Prince said angrily, it's Minneapolis. Then Jana went by, Prince said, relax your lips, girl, and it was not going well, that's for sure. Prince's ex-fiancée Susanna Melvoin, who is the twin sister of Wendy Melvoin, a former member of Prince's band, claims that Michael Jackson asked Prince to collaborate on Bad and sent him an early track, which Prince wasn't impressed with at all. Susanna Melvoin told Love City podcast host Toya in 2018, when Michael did I'm Bad, he sent that track to Prince before he released it, and Michael wanted Prince to sing it with him. He couldn't believe Michael had the nerve to call it I'm Bad. He was like, there's nothing badass about him. While most artists would simply decline the invitation to collaborate, Prince decided to take things to the next level. He re-recorded the entire song and sent the new version back to Jackson, because he wanted to show him how it should be done. Not only did Prince totally reject the idea of singing on Bad, but he also turned down a big role in the music video. He would have played the part of a rough gang member, which eventually went to Wesley Snipes. In the late 90s, Prince sat down with comedian Chris Rock, and he had this to say about the potential role.
You know, that Wesley Snipes character, that would have been me. All right, now you run that video in your mind.
Yet, it wasn't really the idea of playing a gang member that bothered Prince. He went on to tell Rock, the first line of that song is, your butt is mine. Now I said, who's gonna sing that to whom? Because you sure ain't singing it to me, and I sure ain't singing it to you. So right there, we got a problem. Despite Prince's complete disinterest in Bad, the role turned out to be the breakthrough performance for Snipes, who was still a couple years away from major parts in Mo Better Blues and New Jack City. In 2017, 30 years after the Bad video was released, he talked about the casting experience with Conan O'Brien, and Snipes remembered it a bit differently than Prince.
Yeah,
Have you ever heard that?
Me and Prince were auditioning together, and I blew Prince out of the water.
Snipes went on to say,
Michael had told Prince that he had the role, and then he met me.
Is that true?
This is a true story.
On one fateful night in 1983, James Brown performed at Los Angeles' Beverly Theater with both Prince and Michael Jackson in the audience. James Brown called Jackson onto the stage, who pretty much slayed the audience with his dance moves. Afterward, Jackson reportedly whispered to Brown to call Prince on the stage next. Quincy Jones probably summed it up best when he said, Prince made a damn fool out of himself. Judging from later reports and surviving video of the event, Prince tried to swing onto a nearby lamppost as he left the stage. He didn't realize it was a prop and tumbled into the audience. But what really upset Prince was that Jackson acquired a recording of the whole performance, including the fall. Jones claimed that Prince was furious and told Michael he'd kill him if he showed the footage to anyone. He told GQ, Prince waited in the limousine to try and run over Jackson and his sister Toya and his mother. According to previously unreleased interview recordings for his 1988 autobiography Moonwalk, Jackson had some not-so-nice things to say about Prince. In the recordings obtained by The Mirror, we allegedly hear the voice of Jackson saying in reference to Prince, he was so rude, one of the rudest people I have ever met. He has been very mean and nasty to my family. If these tapes are indeed real, then it sounds like Prince's potential limo attack after the James Brown concert didn't sit well at all with the gloved one. He also made direct reference to that night, saying, Prince made a fool of himself. He was a joke. People were running and screaming. I was so embarrassed. It was all on video. Finally, when it came to his supposed rivalry with Prince, Jackson apparently said, I don't like to be compared to Prince at all. I have proven myself since I was real little. He feels like I'm his opponent. I hope he changes because boy, he's gonna get hurt.
Shimon!
More kicks.
Closer!
More
Closer!
kicks.
Close to your face.
You almost hit me there. You're really getting...
When Prince was asked to join a group of America's most talented artists to produce the single We Are the World for African famine relief, he refused, since it was co-written by Michael Jackson. Some speculated that it was because Prince had a beef with the king of pop. Lionel Richie, who co-wrote the song with Jackson, told talk show host Jimmy Kimmel that even though Prince said no, he kept trying to change his mind. Richie said,
I kept calling. I was not going to let it go. And I said, let me try one more time. Prince, we need you down here.
Prince then asked Richie for a separate room to record in. Unfortunately, Richie couldn't give him special treatment in a studio full of megastars, and Richie's response to his request didn't please the Purple One.
And then I made the worst mistake. I said, listen, I'll put you right next to Michael.
Oh, and he didn't want to be next to Michael?
Done.
On his song Hello, Prince sings, I tried to tell them I didn't want to sing, but I'd gladly write a song instead. Fans speculate that he was referring to the We Are the World project, and here's the kicker. Prince did write a song called For the Tears in Your Eyes, which he donated to the cause, and which was included on the We Are the World album. will.i.am, who collaborated with both Prince and Michael Jackson, once told a story on The Graham Norton Show about the interesting encounter between the two legends. According to will.i.am, he got a phone call from Michael Jackson saying he wanted to get together. And the two agreed that Jackson would come to a Prince show that will.i.am was attending that night along with actor Chris Tucker. What happened next was both odd and hilarious.
To make a long story short, Prince steps off the stage and plays the bass in Michael Jackson's face.
The next morning, will.i.am and Jackson met up for breakfast and to talk about the show the night before. Jackson had a simple question about his close encounter with Prince.
First words he says, why was Prince playing the bass in my face? No, Prince, he's always been a meanie.
We all know that Prince and Jackson were said to be competitive when it came to music, but word has it that they once competed privately over what should have been a friendly game. Apparently, at one point, the two stars happened to be working in the same Los Angeles studio, and Prince invited Jackson to play a game of ping pong, even though Jackson didn't know how. They played anyway, much to the apparent amusement of Prince. One of Prince's engineers who witnessed the smackdown described the bizarre scene to the Star Tribune. He said that Prince asked, "You want me to slam it?" Michael drops his paddle and holds up his hands in front of his face so the ball won't hit him. Michael walks out, and Prince starts strutting around like a rooster. Did you see that? He played like Helen Keller.
This bores me. Is anyone up for a game of basketball?
Prince's drummer Michael Bland also told the Star Tribune that the two superstars even went head-to-head in a game of basketball, but it seemed like they had a friendly relationship. He said, they'd shoot hoops at Paisley Park. We used to get packages from Michael Jackson's production company with footage of Sly Stone performing in Europe. Prince would pop it in the VCR and we'd watch it. In his autobiography, Sing to Me, famed music producer L.A. Reid described an incident where he went to visit Michael Jackson at his Neverland Ranch. After getting a tour of the grounds by the King of Pop, the two went into a screening room where he said Jackson showed him a recording from the James Brown concert, when Prince fell off the stage. Reid continued to say that Michael really enjoyed laughing at that part of the video. Reid then said Jackson brought out a second Prince video. Jackson was apparently having a good time at the Purple One's expense. Reid said, after that, he put on a scene from Prince's movie Under the Cherry Moon, the artsy black and white bomb he made after Purple Rain, and he laughed some more at Prince. Despite speculation, Prince denied there was any beef between him and Michael Jackson. Comedian Chris Rock asked Prince in 1997 which artist made him feel like he needed to get back in the studio and compete, opening the door for Prince to mention Jackson. And Prince seemed to squash those rumors. Prince said, contrary to what a lot of people might believe, it was never somebody who was my contemporary. Rock then asked Prince directly if there was ever a beef between himself and Jackson. Prince said, not to me, no. Not only that, Prince once defended Jackson to the press. When asked by a plucky reporter who he thought would win in a fistfight between him and Jackson, Prince laughed and said that, quote, Michael's not a fighter, he's a lover. When the crowd's laughter quickly turned into a low roar, presumably because of the long-standing abuse allegations against Jackson, Prince told everyone to reserve judgment. Can I just say something? I've never really spoke publicly about Michael. We should all just kind of like chill, because he may know something none of us really know. The talk show host Tavis Smiley, who wrote the book Before You Judge Me, The Triumph and Tragedy of Michael Jackson's Last Days, described a meeting he had with Prince right after Jackson died, which put Prince's relationship with Jackson into a different perspective. He told Conan O'Brien that upon hearing about Jackson's death, Prince locked himself in his room for days and didn't talk to anybody. Days later, Smiley said he met up with Prince at his hotel suite after a concert and had a private discussion with him about Jackson. Smiley told O'Brien,
"And from 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning until the sun came up, I sat and listened to him talk about his respect for Michael's artistic genius."
Summing up his night talking with the music legend, Smiley had this to say about Prince's reflections on the talent of Michael Jackson.
"It's something I'll never forget, listening to this one artistic genius revel in the humanity and the dignity and the craft of another artistic genius. It was a powerful evening."
Paris Jackson was born into an unimaginable world. After all, Michael Jackson was the king of pop. Since his passing, Paris Jackson has managed to persevere through mental illness, substance abuse, and family tragedy. Here are the tragic details about Paris Jackson's life. As a child, Paris didn't have a relationship with her biological mother, Debbie Rowe. According to ABC News, Michael Jackson's ex-wife had, quote, almost no contact with Paris and her eldest brother, Prince, for nearly a decade. It was something Rowe chose voluntarily. She gave up custody during the divorce in 2000 and relinquished parental rights during a separate hearing in 2001. In the midst of the latter, the mother of two told the court, quote, "They're his kids. They are not my kids," Rowe revealed to ABC News. "I did it for Michael Jackson to become a father, not for me to become a mother. You earn the title parent. I have done absolutely nothing to earn that title." That sentiment didn't last forever. According to ABC News, Rowe planned to seek custody of the kids in 2009. Extra uncovered alleged emails in the month after Michael's death, however, where the mom of two supposedly revealed that she didn't actually want custody. Rather, she didn't want to, quote, look like the woman who gave away her kids and just forgot about them. According to People, Paris and Rowe only publicly reconciled in 2013.
The legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson, passed away on Thursday, June 25th, 2009 at 2:26 p.m.
When Paris was 11 years old, she had to endure the tragic death of her father. According to CNN, the King of Pop was planning his comeback tour when he died from an overdose of propofol, a drug he was reportedly using to treat his insomnia. Jackson's death was ruled a homicide, and Dr. Conrad Murray, who had been administering the surgical anesthetic every night for about 2 months, was ultimately convicted of involuntary manslaughter. The Jackson family leveled a wrongful death suit against AEG Live, the concert promoters behind Michael's This Is It tour. Though AEG won the lawsuit, with jurors accepting their claim that Michael was at fault for his own death, Paris still slammed the company in her Rolling Stone interview, claiming, AEG Live does not treat their performers right. They drain them dry and work them to death. Paris was uniquely close to her father, and she never completely healed from the pop star's death, but she told Rolling Stone that she doesn't expect to, admitting, "They always say time heals, but it really doesn't. You just get used to it. I live life with the mentality of, okay, I lost the only thing that has ever been important to me. So going forward, anything bad that happens can't be nearly as bad as what happened before, so I can handle it." Michael Jackson's memorial service was so monumental that it was broadcast in Times Square, and Paris Jackson's unexpected, unplanned speech was perhaps the most heartbreaking moment.
Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine, and I just wanted to say I love him.
According to Time, this was the first time the child whose father largely shielded her from the paparazzi spoke in public. Following her statement, she was embraced by her aunt Janet Jackson and whisked off stage as some of the 21,000 members in the audience wept. AEG Live CEO Randy Phillips told Time, "I lost it. I almost short-circuited my walkie-talkie crying into it." Kenny Ortega, Michael's longtime collaborator, told the magazine, "I've never seen a girl love her daddy as much as Paris loved Michael. It wasn't planned. She was also his #1 fan, and it came through there." following Michael's death, Paris and her siblings moved in with their grandmother, Katherine Jackson. This living situation proved to be difficult because it lacked structure, and it's when Paris first began to self-harm. In an episode of her Facebook Watch series, Unfiltered, Paris Jackson and Gabrielle Glenn, the King of Pop's only daughter, revealed that she'd been living a, quote, very healthy lifestyle with her father, but when she moved in with her grandmother, quote, there were no rules.
And so I gained a lot of weight, and food became an addiction.
She went on to explain, and then a cousin called me fat, and I was like, okay, I can't do that anymore. And that's how I fell into self-harm. Paris claimed that she didn't think her self-harming behavior would ever claim her life. Instead, she was desperately seeking control in a world of chaos, saying, I was always the one that was in control of the razor.
Part of it was the dopamine release. And dopamine is called dope for a reason. It feels good.
According to Paris, part of it was that, and then it was also a distraction from emotional pain and transferring to physical pain and the need for control. Paris hasn't spoken a whole lot on the subject, but she did endure abuse as a teen. In an interview with Rolling Stone, the singer revealed that she was sexually assaulted by a, quote, complete stranger when she was 14 years old. At the time, Jackson felt like she didn't fit in with many of her peers at private school. She was habitually bullied online and eventually fell in with a crowd of, quote, a lot of older people doing a lot of crazy things. She hid her traumatic assault from the public and told Rolling Stone, I don't want to give too many details, but it was not a good experience at all, and it was really hard for me, and at the time, I didn't tell anybody. Paris Jackson's self-harm would eventually escalate.
Yes, I tried to kill myself many times.
In 2013, Paris was 15 years old and in the midst of major depression and a drug addiction. She cut her wrists and took 20 pills of Motrin and was sent to the Diamond Ranch Academy, a therapeutic school in Utah shortly thereafter. Paris told Rolling Stone, it was just self-hatred, low self-esteem, thinking that I couldn't do anything right, not thinking I was worthy of living anymore. According to the Daily Mail, who parsed through reports from The Sun and the New York Post, this was not an easy road for her. Paris's family allegedly feared that she'd relapse amidst her father's wrongful death suit, especially if she had access to Twitter and the internet. Paris told Rolling Stone that her time in Utah seemingly helped, saying, it was great for me. I'm a completely different person. I was crazy. I was actually crazy. I was going through a lot of, teen angst. And I was also dealing with my depression and my anxiety without any help. 3 years later, though, Paris seemed to have a different opinion.
The problems that I went there with got fixed, but I left with way more than I came there with.
Paris has been on the mend despite tabloid reports that surfaced in 2019, shortly after the release of HBO's documentary Leaving Neverland. According to Billboard, the singer, who has adamantly maintained her father's innocence, brushed off claims by TMZ that she had been hospitalized following an attempt on her own life, tweeting, lies, 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 OMG, and more lies. Strangely enough, this was aimed at Real Housewives of New York's Bethany Frankel, who reacted to TMZ's alleged false report with, we are the product of our parents' unresolved issues. Both Jackson and Frankel's tweets have since been deleted, and a source told Billboard that while Jackson did receive medical treatment, it was not for a suicide attempt. Paris was reportedly estranged from her mother for more than a year when the pair reconnected in July 2016. Unfortunately, it wasn't under the best circumstances. Debbie Rowe had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was the fear of losing another parent that allegedly brought the pair together. According to TMZ, Jackson reached out to Rowe ahead of her surgery with a digital olive branch, a simple I love you text. This opened up the doors, and according to People, Jackson stuck by her mother's side throughout treatment, even posting a photo on Instagram kissing Rowe's head. She captioned it, I'm a fighter because she's a fighter. Love you, Mom. Rowe, who had her last round of chemotherapy treatment in early 2017, told Entertainment Tonight that Jackson had been her, quote, rock.
She's amazing. She's been with me the whole time. First phone call. Took her 30 seconds when she found out.
Rowe added, for her to kiss my bald head, her love is pretty unconditional. Paris spent much of 2018 dodging awful tabloid rumors that claimed she was a partier on the brink of a breakdown. This included a gutting Radar Online report titled Jackson Family Terrified Rail-Thin Paris Will Die from Drugs Like Late Dad Michael, which cruelly claimed that, quote, it seems like no one can save her. The singer was rightly upset and took to Twitter to slam the report, saying, I've never once given the impression that I'm someone who likes to party, but they're literally claiming I go out every single night. And because I'm an advocate for medical marijuana, they're saying I'm a hardcore addict. I've never read an article from Radar about myself that's actually true, but this is crossing a line.
Most tabloid places want clickbait and drama and excitement and fights and this, that, the other, the things that get people amped up.
A lot of the speculation happened following Demi Lovato's accidental overdose in July. According to CNN, reports claimed that the incident convinced Paris to check herself into rehab, but that wasn't exactly the case. In an Instagram story captured by CNN, Jackson revealed, no, I haven't gone to a clinic. Someone doesn't have to almost die for me to know to be healthy. I've already had friends OD and die. That's enough for me. Though Paris initially denied claims that she was headed to rehab in 2018, reports from the start of 2019 told a different story. Radar Online claimed the star primarily sought treatment for alcohol abuse and mental health issues amidst a so-called, quote, rocky road of self-destruction, but Entertainment Tonight, who first reported on the alleged news, wasn't quite so dramatic. A source told the magazine, Jackson decided that she needed to take some time off to reboot, realign, and prioritize her physical and emotional health. She checked herself into a treatment facility to aid in her wellness plan. Though Paris didn't publicly address whether or not she actually went to rehab, Radar Online found some evidence that she was in recovery. Paparazzi shot a photo of the star walking her dog and reportedly captured a 30-day sobriety chip from Narcotics Anonymous that was clipped to her keychain. In 2020, Paris hit the road with her band Soundflowers. The duo, which includes her now ex-boyfriend Gabriel Glenn, embarked on a European tour, but Jackson reportedly skipped out on a show after she fell ill. Radar Online suggested she was, quote, heading for a meltdown and that the star canceled her appearance because of prescription pills. But Paris has been open about her aversion to medication.
I'm not a fan of medications, and it just kind of clouded my third eye.
She went on to explain, for me, my depression comes in waves, so even though the lows are unbearably low, I would still rather that than nothing. Paris hasn't exactly had an easy life. That's just the price of being Michael Jackson's daughter. In an episode of Unfiltered, the singer revealed that her past trauma is what drives her to create, and it's led her to the family business, saying, whether it was him passing or all the that has happened to me in my life, if I don't talk about it or if I don't put it in the music, it's going to completely ruin my life and it's going to own me. Today, Paris seems like she's stronger than she's ever been, and it's impossible to argue that the little girl who gave that speech at her dad's memorial service wasn't strong to begin with. Even so, she's still human, and she still finds self-acceptance hard. During an episode of Unfiltered, Paris revealed that she, quote, struggles to accept herself, and it's always a work in progress, saying, I want to influence self-acceptance and courage and being comfortable in your own skin.
I'm just working on content. Trying to just be content. Baby steps, self-love is hard.
If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call or chat online with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK 8255.
From child star to pop icon, Janet Jackson's life has been full of eventful moments, in addition to a wonderful music career, making this star's journey in the industry nothing short of remarkable. Let's take a look at the incredible transformation of Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson entered the world of entertainment by default, whether she liked it or not. Her brothers had already started to pursue their careers as the Jackson 5 in 1965, a year before she was born. As mentioned in her BBC documentary, Taking Control, by the time Janet was 5 years old, her brothers had already achieved 4 #1 singles on the US Billboard Hot 100, signed a record deal with Motown, and had their own cartoon television series. Not long after, Janet followed in her brother's footsteps and appeared on the Jacksons' variety program. She also performed with her older brother, Randy Jackson, on an episode of The Carol Burnett Show. As she recalled in the doc, her work on the small screen caught the attention of television producer and writer Norman Lear, who saw her potential as an on-screen actor and cast her as Penny in the CBS sitcom Good Times. Before her groundbreaking music career, Janet Jackson was making waves as a child actor on Good Times. Even though Jackson started filming the show when she was just 11 years old, she was made to feel that her appearance wasn't good enough. In a 2012 interview on Anderson Live, she reflected on her time on the popular sitcom, which wasn't always a positive experience. Jackson explained she started to develop very early and that the women in charge of the wardrobe told her they had to bind her chest. Before they started to shoot the following season, she said she was told that she needed to lose weight. After Michael Jackson decided Dad Joe Jackson would no longer be his manager, the patriarch of the musical family used his time to manage Janet Jackson. At 16 years old, Janet Jackson released her self-titled debut album in 1982. As noted in the documentary, Taking Control, she did not get a chance to contribute much to the sound and the songs were already written for her. According to Billboard, the LP peaked at number 63 on the US Billboard 200 and didn't make much noise. 2 years later, Janet dropped her second album, Dream Street, which also failed to make much of an impact. Janet Jackson eloped with fellow 80s singer James DeBarge on September 7, 1984. James is most known for Rhythm of the Night, a hit single he released with his family group DeBarge. Janet was 18 years old when she tied the knot with James, who was 3 years her senior. Joe Jackson, who was still Janet's manager at the time, was not happy about their marriage and tried to put a stop to it. And so, just 1 year later, the patriarch of the Jackson family had the marriage annulled after it was revealed that James was struggling with drug addiction. According to the doc Taking Control, Janet saw her marriage to James as a way of getting away from her controlling father. However, things didn't go to plan when their relationship turned sour, and she was set free from James in 1985. After her first 2 albums, Janet Jackson was determined to rule her own destiny. After moving to Minneapolis, she recorded her 3rd studio album, Control, with hitmakers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, which proved to be a wise decision. Released in 1986, Control was a huge success. As noted in Taking Control, it was the first time fans heard Janet writing and singing from her own real-life personal experiences. The record peaked at number 1 on the US Billboard 200 chart and spawned 5 top 5 singles, and her first number 1 hit song, When I Think of You. Control took Janet's career to new heights and was a worldwide success. Not only did the album introduce her music to audiences around the globe, but she finally started to be respected as a musician in her own right. Control was Janet Jackson's breakthrough album, and it was certainly no gimmick. When it came down to following up the release with another studio album, Jackson knew she had to step up her game to prove that she was no one-album wonder. 1989's Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 cemented Janet's status as a pop icon and helped her set and break records no other artist had achieved. According to Billboard, the LP became the bestseller of 1990, along with being the only album in history to have 7 singles peak within the top 5 on the Hot 100 chart, and helped her become the first female artist to be nominated for Producer of the Year at the Grammy Awards in 1990. At the time, she was the only act to produce number 1 hits on the Hot 100 chart in 3 different years. After achieving huge success with Control and Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814, record executives were clamoring to sign Janet Jackson to their label. As Taking Control recounted, her deal was completed with A&M Records, so Janet signed to Richard Branson's label, Virgin Records, for $40 million in 1991, the largest contract in history at the time. She was eventually surpassed, but in 1996, Janet renewed her contract with Virgin for $80 million, signing the largest contract in history for a second time. In a 1997 interview with Giselle Fernandez, Janet was asked what it felt like being the highest paid entertainer in the world, saying, "I really don't think about that, being the highest paid, really. Once the deal was done, it was just done. I went on about my life like I normally do." 1993's Janet saw Janet Jackson reinvent her image once again. This time, she was ready to show off her sexy side. Jackson hired legendary fashion photographer Patrick Desmarchelier to shoot the album cover for the LP, which featured Jackson topless with her breasts covered by the hands of her second husband, Rene Elizondo. Her label at the time thought the image was too risque. As she stated in the BBC doc Taking Control, "That was supposed to be the album cover. So I said, okay, that's fine, don't use it for the album cover. Let's use it for a magazine cover instead." So that's when we went to Rolling Stone and they fell in love with it. Jackson had no problem celebrating her own sexuality. The hitmaker's lyrics focused on her sexual pleasure and desire in various songs throughout the 1990s and 2000s. A duet between Janet Jackson and her King of Pop brother Michael Jackson had been a long time coming. In 1995, the two superstars came together and released the powerful single, Scream. Shot on an elaborately built spaceship set, the visual cost $7 million to make, according to Forbes, and over an estimated 64 million tuned in to watch the video's premiere. The following year, Janet and Michael won Best Short Form Music Video at the Grammy Awards and nabbed 3 MTV Video Music Awards. It's no secret to Janet Jackson fans that she is a very private person. Therefore, it wasn't too much of a surprise when they found out she had secretly married Mexican dancer, songwriter, and director Renee Elizondo, who directed her music videos for That's the Way Love Goes and Again. The duo tied the knot in March 1991 at home in North San Diego County. However, they ultimately called it quits and announced they would be filing for divorce after about 9 years of marriage. Elizondo told E! in 2000, "We simply grew apart. We became more business and creative partners than actual lovers." In a 2000 tell-all interview with Matt Lauer on Today, Jackson admitted that she told very few friends and family members about her second marriage, only ones who she believed would keep the secret. Janet Jackson's 2004 Super Bowl performance has been well documented over the years and remains a hot topic. Jackson performed during the halftime show and invited Justin Timberlake on stage with her. At the end of their set, Timberlake ripped too much of her attire off and exposed her breast. Some people believe it was a publicity stunt, while others believe it was an accident. After the incident, Timberlake's solo career continued to propel, while Jackson's definitely took a hit. According to Billboard, her videos and singles were blacklisted from all the TV channels and radio stations Clear Channel Communications owned, which included MTV. During an appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show, Jackson explained she regrets issuing an apology for something that wasn't done intentionally. As Forbes noted, the wardrobe malfunction more or less helped a now popular video platform hit the ground running, explaining, "Once YouTube launched, it was an enormous success, thanks in part to people looking for clips of Janet and Justin's performance." According to E! News, Janet Jackson met her third husband, Wissam Almana, in April 2010. 2 years later, the pair tied the knot at a private ceremony. However, Jackson didn't inform fans until the following year, instead sharing a joint statement on her website saying, "The rumors regarding an extravagant wedding are simply not true. Last year we were married in a quiet, private, and beautiful ceremony." In April 2016, Jackson shared in a video that she and Almana were expecting their first child. The duo welcomed son Issa Almana in January 2017. 3 months later, Jackson and her husband announced they were getting a divorce after 5 years of marriage. There was a moment where Janet Jackson fans wondered if she would ever return with any more music. After years of being absent from the music scene, the singer gave everyone the announcement they had been waiting for when she revealed she would be returning with a new studio album and a world tour in 2015. Janet released her 11th studio album, Unbreakable, in October of that year, which saw her collaborating with Missy Elliott and J. Cole. It was her first release since 2008's Discipline and was praised by music critics. As noted in Entertainment Weekly, the album became her 7th chart topper on the US Billboard 200. Not only that, Janet became the third artist to have a #1 album across the last 4 decades. After such a long, successful, groundbreaking career, it was time for Janet Jackson to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In March 2019, the talented entertainer's hard work throughout the decades was honored by fellow musician Janelle Monáe, with her saying, "History is not complete without you, Janet. That's why we bow at your altar tonight." Jackson gave an endearing and humble speech saying, "As the youngest in the family, I was determined to make it on my own. I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. But never in a million years did I expect to follow in their footsteps. Tonight, your baby sister has made it." In February 2019, Janet Jackson announced her first ever Las Vegas residency, Metamorphosis. The shows took place at the Park Theater in the Park MGM Resort and ran from May 2019 to August that same year, according to NME. The residency may have been a lot shorter than most, but she sure racked up the money. According to Billboard, she brought in a whopping $13 million from 18 shows. On February 10, 2020, Janet Jackson announced via Instagram that she will be releasing a new album titled Black Diamond that will be promoted with a world tour. As of this video, Black Diamond has yet to be released, and its tour was put on hold due to the global coronavirus pandemic. While fans wait for new music, they can look forward to her own 2-part documentary that is scheduled to air in 2022 on A&E and Lifetime. The private singer is set to discuss the death of her father, Joe Jackson, and older brother, Michael Jackson, and will share her side of the story surrounding the 2004 Super Bowl performance.
Debbie Rowe is the mother of 2 of Michael Jackson's children. You don't hear much about her these days, but back in the mid-90s, everyone knew her name. Their bizarre relationship captivated the world for a time, but then she disappeared. Curious about whatever happened to Debbie Rowe? Let's explore. According to ABC News, Debbie Rowe first met the King of Pop when she worked as a nursing assistant for a Beverly Hills dermatologist. Rowe revealed the details of their initial encounter during a 2003 interview, recalling, "I said, you know what? Nobody does what you do better, and nobody does what I do better. Let's get this over with." And he laughed, and we just became friends. It was just right away. Rowe was a huge fan of Michael Jackson's music and of the man himself. And it seems Jackson really valued Rowe's friendship, confiding in her when his marriage to Lisa Marie Presley started to fail. According to Rowe, Jackson wanted very much to be a dad. It was at that point that Rowe offered to willingly carry his child. The offer was confirmed by Jackson's ex-wife Presley, who told Playboy, "I knew Debbie Rowe was offering to carry his child while we were married," according to him. She was a nurse who had a crush on him and offered to have his babies. The plan was that Rowe would carry Jackson's child, thus allowing him to be somewhat of a single father. However, his plans went awry thanks to a friend of Rowe's who secretly recorded their conversations and sold the information to the tabloids. According to the book, Michael Jackson, The Magic, the Madness, The Whole Story, 1958 to 2009, the shocking revelation of Rowe's pregnancy caught the attention of Jackson's mother. Katherine Jackson was strongly opposed to her grandchild being born out of wedlock. To appease his conservative mother, Michael agreed to marry Debbie. When Debbie revealed the situation to friend Tanya Boyd, Tanya asked Debbie if she felt any romantic love for Michael. Debbie answered that her love with Jackson was bigger and more important than romantic love. It was clear that Debbie was more than a little starstruck when she said yes to the father of children Prince Michael Jackson and Paris Catherine Jackson, both of whom were conceived through artificial insemination.
We're really a regular couple, regular parents.
She eventually gave up custody rights to her children following the divorce. The circumstances of Debbie Rowe's connection to Michael Jackson made her a prime target for tabloid fodder, as many in the press assumed Rowe's ultimate goal was a hefty payday. Rowe, however, repeatedly denied the allegations. 6 months after the birth of daughter Paris Jackson, Debbie agreed to a divorce and a multi-million-dollar settlement. Although she insisted to the press that she did have access to the children, she was later forced to admit during Jackson's child molestation cases that she hadn't seen her 2 children in years. The entire matter made it seem as if the pregnancies were little more than a transaction for financial gain, which is another claim Rowe has staunchly denied. What seemed to hurt Debbie more than any claims by the press was the reality that she couldn't give Michael what he wanted, more children. Rowe went on to say in an interview, "I had so many problems when I was pregnant with Paris. After that, I couldn't have any more children. Michael was upset about that. He couldn't understand it. He wanted more babies." The King of Pop's sudden passing from cardiac arrest in June of 2009 shocked the world.
And I just wanted to say I love him so much.
The shady circumstances surrounding his death would remain a hot topic for years to come. Jackson's former physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, filled countless column inches in the weeks and months following the bombshell news. But he wasn't the only person the press took an interest in. Debbie Rowe had her lawyer respond with a strongly worded statement when TMZ claimed that she wasn't the biological mother of Prince and Paris. Rowe's legal rep, Marta Amley, was quick to hit back when the story broke, telling Access Hollywood that the vast majority of what was being said was totally untrue. Almy went on to state in the press that Rowe was indeed the biological mother of Jackson's 2 oldest children. When Rowe took the stand during Michael Jackson's wrongful death suit in 2013, she revealed that she was closer to Paris than she was with her son, Prince Michael Jackson. Rowe and Paris have been spotted together on numerous occasions in the years since. However, Debbie was a total stranger to Paris during her preteen years. Speaking to Rolling Stone in 2017, Paris revealed that her mum simply didn't exist when she was very young. Then when she got a little older and realised that a man can't give birth, she asked Jackson about her mother. He told her Debbie's name, but that was it. Paris didn't do anything with this information until her dad passed away, at which point she hit the internet to find out all she could about Debbie. She was 13 years old by the time she and Roe reunited. In 2014, Debbie Rowe reportedly tried getting custody of her daughter Paris. However, sources say she abandoned the plan when she realized her then teenage daughter was in good hands with Michael Jackson's mother, Katherine Jackson. But this wasn't the first time Debbie attempted to gain parental control of the kids, only to back out later. She reportedly accepted a payoff of $8 million plus $900,000 annually after giving birth to the first of Michael's kids. Rowe was said to have been negotiating a further $4 million to back off after the singer's death in 2009, a claim her reps denied to ABC News. Debbie settled the custody scuffle a few weeks later in an agreement that did not involve any financial payments, according to CNN. In some leaked emails obtained by Extra, however, Debbie appeared to tell a friend at the time that she wasn't really interested in being a full-time mum. Debbie reportedly wrote, "Do I want the kids? Hell no. Does it look good for me to ask for them? Absolutely." Michael Jackson's past was under examination once again in 2019 when HBO released the two-part documentary Leaving Neverland. The hard-to-watch doc contained candid interviews with Wade Robson and James Safechuck, two men who say they were repeatedly abused by Jackson as children. Jackson's family called Robson and Safechuck, quote, perjurers, and in a statement denounced Leaving Neverland for encouraging a, quote, public lynching. Debbie Rowe kept unusually quiet, unusual because she's always been the first to defend the King of Pop from accusations of child molestation. When Martin Bashir's explosive documentary Living with Michael Jackson aired in early 2003, the singer's lawyers accused the British journalist of implying that Jackson had behaved inappropriately around children. Jackson felt utterly betrayed by Bashir's portrayal of him in the doc and hit back with a TV rebuttal. Rowe was interviewed at length as part of the program, and she insisted that Jackson would never harm a child.
What's the problem? Come on, I'll take you home.
Rowe went on to say in the interview, "I'm tired of hearing it, because you can only take the lies for so long, and I've reached my limit. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm tired of the lies." In the footage, which was later released as a one-off special under the title The Debbie Rowe Interview: The Missing Tapes, she was asked if she felt comfortable with Jackson being left alone with their children. Rowe fired back, "He's their father, and he's not a pedophile." Michael Jackson and Debbie Rowe split after 3 years of marriage, but the latter was apparently in no rush to move on. It wasn't until 2014 that she found love again, 5 years on from Jackson's death and 15 years after she and the King of Pop divorced. The fact that Rowe moved on after all that time wasn't surprising, but what was shocking was the identity of her new partner. The man she intended to marry was Mark Schaffel, former videographer at Neverland Ranch and a one-time member of Michael Jackson's inner circle. After the couple announced the engagement, Schaffel told Entertainment Tonight, "We're best friends. I was the only one, actually, after Debbie and Michael had split up, that was still allowed to talk to Debbie." Rowe went on to say that Jackson would have approved of their union, but some people have questioned that claim. When news of the engagement broke, Radar Online did some digging into Schaffel's past and discovered that while they were once close, this apparently wasn't the case when Jackson died. The two men are said to have fallen out when it was revealed that Schaffel had been directing adult movies. Schaffel went on to explain, "It's no secret that my background is in the adult film business. I don't keep anything in my life hidden." In July 2016, Rowe opened up about her breast cancer diagnosis during an interview with Entertainment Tonight, revealing she had a tumour removed and had started a course of chemotherapy. A few weeks before the interview, Paris Jackson shared a picture of herself kissing her mum's bald head. Rowe's hair started dropping out after her very first chemo session. Rowe told Entertainment Tonight, "Paris is my rock. She's amazing. She's been with me the whole time. First phone call. Took her 30 seconds to reach out when she found out. She said, 'Are you okay?' And I said, 'Yeah, I got this.' She said, 'I know you do, Mom.'" Rowe decided to get ahead of the curve and shave her head when the first clumps of hair started coming out, opting for a blonde wig that she nicknamed Ursula. Rowe went on to add, "Chemo does its best to make you lose your femininity, and what a lot of people don't realise is that when I take the wig off, I'm still me. I'm still feminine, I'm still a woman, and above all, I'm still a human." The silver lining was that it brought her family closer together. Even her son, Prince Michael, was giving updates on her cancer battle. Rowe completed her chemo in January 2017. Debbie Rowe was photographed out with friends in July 2018, 2 years on from her breast cancer diagnosis. There had been no word on whether the chemotherapy had worked at that stage, but Radar Online was happy to report that Paris and Prince Michael Jackson's mum was looking a lot healthier as she caught up with gal pals in Palmdale, California. The following year, Debbie gave the same outlet an exclusive interview, confirming that her cancer was in remission. Debbie enjoys living the cowboy life. She left Los Angeles behind for a horse ranch situated in a stretch of Californian desert between Palmdale and Lancaster. She owns and operates the Painted Desert Ranch, which is about an hour from Paris's place in Hollywood. The model has visited her mum at the ranch plenty of times, according to Debbie, who revealed that Paris was focusing a lot on her music. Paris performs with her boyfriend, Gabriel Glenn, under the name The Soundflowers. Debbie called Glenn a, quote, lovely boy. She was also spotted rubbing shoulders with the likes of Chris Brown as she took in a Soundflowers gig at an intimate venue called The Mint in 2019. It's been a rocky road for Debbie Rowe since she became famous all those years ago. But it's like she told Entertainment Tonight during her brave cancer battle, "I'm a fighter and always have been."
Paris Jackson and Janet Jackson don't exactly have a picture-perfect aunt-niece relationship. What was the deal with that infamous on-camera altercation? And are they back on good terms? Keep watching to find out. Despite their ups and downs, it seems like Janet is still looking out for Paris after the tragic passing of Michael Jackson, regardless of whether or not it's advice her niece wants to hear. Janet issued a warning to Paris during a December 2011 ABC News interview after Paris made it clear she wanted to work in the entertainment industry. Something that may potentially have been a source of contention, though, the fact that Janet urged her not to do it after being asked what she thought of the youngster's career.
I told her, I said, you should really take this time to enjoy your youth to its fullest, because you lose so much of your childhood in this industry.
Still, she expressed her support with some hesitancy.
I'm happy for her because this is what she wants to do.
At the time, Paris was 13 years old and had just landed her first movie role, so it's very possible being told by her aunt not to pursue her acting career may not have gone down so well. Paris has continued to act since, despite Janet's warning. Okay, here's the biggie. That infamous altercation involving Janet and Paris at Paris's grandmother and Janet's mom, Catherine Jackson's compound in 2012. This one hit the headlines big time after CCTV footage leaked online showing something going down between the family members. The video featured someone alleged to be Janet appearing to try to take the cell phone belonging to someone who looked like Paris in the driveway. Police were called, though nobody was arrested, with TMZ claiming and later retracting that Janet and her brothers, Randy and Jermaine Jackson, turned up at the compound uninvited and tried to force Paris and her brothers, Blanket Jackson and Prince Jackson, into a vehicle. TMZ also initially reported Janet called Paris a, quote, spoiled little and claimed a scuffle ensued, with Catherine's nephew Trent supposedly trying to break up an altercation involving Randy and Jermaine. However, TMZ later took back the story, instead making it clear Janet did not slap or otherwise touch Paris, nor did she verbally abuse her. According to Radar Online, Catherine's attorneys spoke about the incident in a statement, saying, certain Jackson family members ambushed Catherine Jackson's home. After exiting their vehicles, Jackson family members ran up to Michael's children as they yelled and began to aggressively grab at the cell phones in their hands. She claimed the trio was taken to a safe location before police arrived. Weddings are supposed to bring people together, but it doesn't look like that was the case when Janet wed her now ex-husband, Wissam Almana, in 2012. Paris was allegedly threatening to boycott the wedding, according to a report from Star magazine, and supposedly hadn't spoken to Janet in more than 6 months after a falling out. A source added they supposedly hadn't reconciled after past drama, which may or may not have involved that infamous CCTV leak. However, Janet later claimed they didn't have many guests when they walked down the aisle anyway. In fact, they kept things so small most people didn't even know they were officially married until several months later, according to E! News. In a statement posted to her website in February 2013, which appears to have been deleted in the wake of their split, Janet described their ceremony as quiet, private, and beautiful, though it's not been confirmed if Paris or any other family members for that matter attended. Janet also shot down reports claiming they planned an extravagant wedding, after the National Enquirer claimed they were inviting 500 guests. The false report also stated they were spending $20 million on the ceremony, including handing out $10,000 Rolex watches as wedding favors. But if the couple really did invite 500 people, would Paris have made the guest list? They say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but that's probably not the case with this one. Back in May 2018, Paris caused quite the stir when she was noticeably absent from the Billboard Music Awards, during which her aunt, Janet, received the Icon Award. Making her absence even more suspicious, several of her family members did attend, including her grandma, her aunt, and even her brother, Prince. Writing on Instagram stories, Paris claimed she had absolutely no idea Janet was being honored and hadn't declined the opportunity to attend because she was never even asked. She wrote, "No one from my management reached out to me about attending billboards or about the award, and no one from my family did either. I had absolutely no idea until y'all spammed with hatred." According to People magazine, Paris then scolded those seemingly trying to get involved with her family affairs, adding, "Please do not tell me, demand, try to control how I handle my relationship with the people in my life, specifically my family. As amazing and as things can be, it's no one's business but ours." She also suggested there wasn't any drama with Janet, as she shared a sweet photo of them sticking their tongues out to her Instagram story with the caption, "Congrats, Auntie, you earned it."
Have you ever discussed maybe collabing with her?
We haven't talked about it, but I'm not opposed to it. I love, collaborating with all kinds of artists.
The Jackson family may need a little ice for this burn, since Paris wasn't afraid to put her family, seemingly including her Aunt Janet, on blast on social media in April 2018. This one went down after several reports claimed that the Jackson clan were worried that Paris, who has shared her mental health issues publicly, was in a downward spiral. Paris clapped back on social media, suggesting very few, if any, of her extended family members had actually reached out to her personally. She said on her Instagram stories, "Apparently people think I'm about to die. My therapist texted me about it laughing though, so that's good."
I guess to the family members that are talking to all of these news outlets saying you're worried for me, when was the last time you called me?
She then added that her brother Prince wasn't worried about her because they talked regularly, bluntly telling her family,
"If you're worried about me, call me."
This social media clapback appeared to be in response to a story from Page 6 a couple of days earlier, which claimed the Jackson clan was concerned over her, quote, "bizarre behavior." An unnamed relative spoke out to the outlet and suggested the Jacksons were worried about Paris being taken advantage of, particularly when it came to her relationship with model Cara Delevingne. Another alleged source of contention between Paris and Janet is supposedly the funeral of Joe Jackson, Janet's dad and Paris's granddad. Radar Online alleged in June 2018 that there was bad blood between the two, and they argued about the funeral plans because they had such differing opinions on Joe. Though Paris thought the world of her late granddad, it was claimed that Janet had a more strained relationship with the Jackson patriarch, who was a driving force behind turning her into a star.
What's your name? Janet. You sing with the group? In the Jackson 5 family, everybody works.
The outlet also claimed that the two fell out over money, with an insider claiming, "Janet has said she'll pay for it because she believes Paris paying for it would be an embarrassment to the family." Joe died at age 89, with TMZ reporting he passed away in a hospice facility. He was somewhat of a controversial figure, with several outlets speculating about how hard he may have worked his kids to ensure they saw success. Joe managed Janet, her brother Michael, and the Jackson 5. Paris appeared to deny the reports of tension, though, and took to Twitter to slam claims she was on the outs with her famous aunt. In July 2018, she hit back, "Janet and I haven't argued in over 6 years. Stop with these stupid rumors. I have nothing but love for my family, and they all know it."
As of March 2022, Paris has nearly 4 million Instagram followers, but her aunt Janet isn't one of them. Despite being a regular Instagram user and following more than 180 accounts, Janet apparently never clicked the follow back button for her brother Michael's daughter, even after Paris shared her Billboard Music Awards congratulations post for her aunt. Janet didn't give her a follow. As for why the Love Will Never Do hitmaker doesn't keep up with her niece's regular updates, we're not sure, but it's not like she doesn't follow any of her famous family members. She clicked that follow button for her brother Randy and also follows the hashtag Janet Jackson. The star even interacted with her brother on social media in October 2018 after Randy attended the Global Citizen Festival in support of her. In a caption alongside a video of him watching Janet perform, he wrote, "Great job, sis." Janet commented with a hugging emoji and a kissing emoji. It's possible Paris shouldn't take the no-follow too personally, though. Paris's brother Prince Jackson also follows Aunt Janet on Instagram, but doesn't have the honor of a follow back. The Atlantic Ocean may actually be another reason Paris and Janet don't seem to have been very close over the years. It's been claimed that the two never managed to build a strong connection because Janet built a life for herself across the pond. Janet's lived in London for several years, and it was claimed in 2018 by an E! News source that Paris doesn't talk to her aunt very much because she's just so far away. The insider suggested that was one of the primary reasons they don't have a super tight bond, noting Paris is much closer to her brothers because they've spent so much time in close quarters. As for Janet, she's shared on multiple occasions how much she loves living in the UK, even sharing restaurant tips on social media. In September 2020, she tweeted her foodie recommendations about a London restaurant that made her, quote, "feel right at home." The star originally lived in the English capital with her now ex-husband, Wissam Almana, but moved out of the home they lived in together in the wake of their split.
As a member of one of the most notorious families in American pop music, fame was almost a guarantee for Toya Jackson. But the singer's career has been filled with even more ups and downs than those of her more famous siblings. Here's why you don't hear from Toya all that much anymore. In the summer of 1993, the Associated Press obtained legal documents detailing a 13-year-old boy's allegations against Michael Jackson, claiming that the singer had abused him. The King of Pop's lawyer called the allegations totally false, while Jackson delivered a statement on live television, similarly denying any wrongdoing. As plenty of Jackson defenders stepped forward, his sister Toya was first in line to confirm the horrible allegations. Toya called off her vacation to Israel that December and instead called a press conference. According to Jezebel, she said, "I cannot and will not be a silent collaborator of his crimes against small, innocent children. And if I remain silent, that means I feel the guilt and humiliation that these children are hearing, and I think it's very wrong." Similar allegations of crimes committed by Michael would return throughout his life and after he passed away in 2009. But while Michael Jackson eluded charges, Toya suffered for speaking out. Her comments were ultimately viewed as just another attempt to attack her family members, as she had previously done in her scandalous and controversial memoir, Growing Up in the Jackson Family. The two biggest stars in the Jackson family are undeniably Michael and Janet. During his lifetime, Michael released 10 studio albums, while Janet has put out 11 as of early 2020. They've both sold millions of records, but in terms of musical output volume, Toya has them beat. Since 1980, Toya has released more than a dozen records. However, she's hopped around labels, likely because none of them sold particularly well. Her first 3 albums all peaked in the bottom portion of the Billboard 200 album chart, and none of her later records even got that far. Toya landed a single on the Billboard Hot 100 pop chart just once with Heart Don't Lie, which, despite some major MTV exposure in 1984, climbed the chart to number 56. In 2004, Toya enjoyed a bit of a comeback under the pseudonym Toy, when her singles Just Wanna Dance and Free the World received major play in dance clubs. But after that, the world seemed to go back to being indifferent to the recording career of the middle Jackson sibling. In the late 80s, Toya got a new manager, Jack Gordon, who she married in 1989, according to People. During a 2013 episode of Life with Toya, the singer later shared disturbing allegations about their relationship, including claims of abuse. Jackson also claimed that she'd had no interest in marrying Gordon in the first place, but had been allegedly forced into the marriage after a bodyguard kept her from fleeing the chapel. She also claimed Gordon had connections to the mafia. Jackson admitted, I was brainwashed by him. I really felt like a robot. I was being beaten. He dictated my career choices. He made me say the things that he wanted me to say in interviews.
We never argue or fight. I may disagree with a lot of things that he does, but we don't fight or anything.
According to the Chicago Tribune, Gordon orchestrated Jackson's 1989 issue of Playboy, which became one of the magazine's all-time bestsellers. This led to Gordon pushing Jackson to perform in adult film productions, at which point she filed for divorce and got away.
But one day I couldn't take it anymore.
While that's a happy ending personally, having Gordon as a manager left a veneer of criminality, sleaze, and scandal that rubbed off on Jackson professionally. The good news for those celebs whose careers have fallen off significantly is that the rise of reality TV makes for hundreds of shows that need to fill out their casts, providing a paycheck and attention for familiar famous faces. LaToya is a quintessential reality show celeb, popping up whenever a series needs a famous person to play themselves and do whatever needs to be done for the camera. LaToya has appeared on a number of reality shows, and she decided to let cameras follow her around on her day-to-day activities for 2 seasons of Life with LaToya on OWN. The downside to becoming a reality show staple? There's a stigma attached to it. Once a star goes down the reality show route, it's hard for them to break out of that cultural niche. As a longtime member of the community of celebrities who do reality shows, it probably wasn't too big of a shock that LaToya ended up competing on The Masked Singer. The Fox reality show is a singing contest, but the competitors aren't fresh-faced singers. They're seasoned celebrities out to prove to the public that they've still got the goods, all while dressed in elaborate, identity-obscuring costumes, with their faces revealed only when they've been voted off. The Masked Singer has been a rating smash. The first season was a top 5 show and became the most popular news show of the 2018 to 2019 season. Judges Nicole Scherzinger and Robin Thicke correctly guessed that the live alien from a famous family was the one and only LaToya. Backstage after her last episode, LaToya called her experience on the show wonderful and absolutely fabulous, adding, "I'm glad that people got the chance to see a different side of my personality."
People have a tendency to prejudge you and the way you sing and the things, and they compare you to other people in your family. And I just want to do it and see how far I'd go.
Will this feel-good appearance on an extremely popular show bring about a comeback for the media personality? Only time will tell.
The King of Pop rode a tsunami of success for 40 years, and his impact on pop culture is undeniable. His untimely 2009 death shocked the world, but it was far less shocking to those in his inner circle. However, the final months of his life were complicated and tragic. Michael Jackson was the major breadwinner for his extended family and the sole guardian of his 3 children, Prince Jackson, Paris Jackson, and Blanket Jackson. While Michael's parents and siblings depended on him for financial support, his kids relied on him for everything. Michael was a protective dad, rarely allowing his children to be seen in public without disguises. He was also adored by his children. A year after their father's death, Prince and Paris were interviewed on Oprah. Paris said,
Yeah, I kind of felt like no one understood what a good father he was. I'd say he was the best cook ever.
The day their father died, the kids reportedly ran to Chef Kai Chase for comfort, who told ABC News, "We stood in a circle and we held hands together." Michael's mother, Katherine Jackson, told Oprah Winfrey, "You know what broke my heart more than anything else in this world? When people at the hospital told us, 'You can leave now.'" And Paris said, "Grandma, where are we going?" The kids went to live with Katherine, and youngest child Blanket was adopted by his uncle, Tito Jackson, when Katherine grew too frail to care for him full-time. In March 2009, the King of Pop announced a series of concerts called This Is It at the O2 Arena in London. The limited engagement was expanded to 50 concerts, and The Guardian reported all of the 1 million tickets sold out in just hours. As Billboard noted, Jackson promised in a press conference that he would perform the songs most popular with his fans. Jackson worked day and night, staging and rehearsing the show. Choreographer Travis Payne recalled to ABC News that Jackson was, quote, "not going to settle for less than perfection." Jackson's former manager Frank DeLeo echoed this sentiment, telling ABC News, "He wanted to do it right, and he was strong enough. If he wasn't healthy, if there was something wrong, I would have stopped him. No, there was nothing to stop." But Jackson grew frail and thin as the year went on. This Is It promoter Randy Phillips told ABC News that he, quote, "hired someone whose job it was to be sure that he eats. And even then, show director Kenny Ortega would tell Jackson to eat after cutting up his food for him."
Michael Jackson recorded the This Is It rehearsals in order to perfect the staging and choreography of the show. However, he never released rehearsal footage to the public, but concert promoters AEG Live decided to release that footage in the form of a documentary. According to the Los Angeles Times, members of the Jackson family fought against production of the film. However, the Jackson estate, AEG Live, and Sony Pictures ultimately came to an agreement. Following his death, Jackson's 3 children and his mother sued AEG Live for negligence, asking for $1.5 billion in damages. The main question during the trial was whether AEG Live or Jackson himself pressured Jackson's personal physician to administer risky medications to enable Jackson to sleep. University of Southern California law professor Jody David Armour told Rolling Stone, "There were 2 strong narratives here, and this jury was most persuaded by the personal responsibility narrative. There was evidence that Michael Jackson wanted Dr. Murray. Personal choice. He's a big boy." The jury ultimately ruled in favor of AEG Live in October 2013. Burning the candle at both ends during the This Is It rehearsal period left Michael Jackson exhausted. On top of that, he battled chronic insomnia. His former manager Frank DeLeo told ABC News Jackson said he couldn't sleep because he was, quote, all wound up about the performances. Cheryl Lynn Lee was a registered nurse employed by Jackson as a nutritionist. She told ABC News that Jackson was intent on bringing in a doctor who could administer the general anesthesia drug propofol as a sleep aid in the spring of 2009. Lee says she told Jackson, "This is not a safe medicine. Please don't take this. You might not wake up the next morning." He assured her his doctor said it would be okay provided that, quote, "somebody is here to monitor me and wake me up." Cheryl Lynn Lee said one of Michael Jackson's aides reached out to her 4 days before his death, saying the King of Pop needed to see her immediately. She said, quote, "He was in trouble and he was crying out." Lee told ABC News, "I could hear Michael in the background saying, tell her that one side of my body is hot, and one side of my body is cold, it's very cold." Lee said she knew, quote, somebody had given him something that hit his central nervous system and insisted Jackson go to the hospital. According to ABC News, he never went. Lee's fear was that he had been administered Diprovan, the brand name for propofol. Those fears would soon be confirmed by the Los Angeles coroner's report. Jackson officially died of acute propofol intoxication with benzodiazepine effect and ruled his death a homicide. Concert promoters onboarded cardiologist Dr. Conrad Murray in 2009 as Michael Jackson's personal physician. Jackson insisted Murray be hired to treat his insomnia and other medical issues, and as the AP reported, Dr. Murray was paid $150,000 per month. As noted by ABC News, Murray said the morning Jackson died, he administered the drugs propofol, lidocaine, Ativan, and Versed. CNN reported Murray told investigators that for 6 weeks prior to Jackson's death, I administered 50 milligrams of the sedative propofol diluted with the local anesthetic lidocaine every night via an intravenous drip. This was apparently Murray's attempt to ease Jackson off of the anesthesia. The Jackson family desperately sought accountability from anyone involved in their superstar relative's death. LaToya Jackson told Barbara Walters, "I simply want justice. In the court of law, I want justice. They've taken a life away from us, from all of us." In February 2010, Murray was hit with an involuntary manslaughter charge.
The court has determined that the appropriate term is the high term of 4 years imprisonment.
In January 1984, Michael Jackson's hair caught on fire on the set of a Pepsi commercial. As biography noted, Jackson was given sedatives and painkillers to treat this injury. Jackson's friend, Miko Brando, told Good Morning America it was, quote, hard to say if this prescribed treatment was the catalyst for what followed. 9 years later, the New York Times reported Jackson cut short his Dangerous tour to enter rehab for his painkiller addiction. According to CNN, addiction expert Dr. Petros Lavunas testified that the pop star's addiction was, in his words, quite extensive. Lavunas also said that a, quote, friendship between an addicted patient and a doctor is problematic, and told the court that he found Jackson did not take more than prescribed. As reported by Billboard, Jackson's mother admitted their family had attempted to stage many interventions over the years. However, he apparently had refused all of their efforts. When Robin Roberts asked about the interventions in 2009, Janet Jackson said she felt he was in denial, adding,
"It's something that you can't do for them. Something they have to do for themselves."
As noted by USA Today, Jackson gave the $1.5 million settlement he won from PepsiCo following the incident to the hospital where he was treated for his burns. Although Michael Jackson was acquitted on all charges of child molestation, repeated accusations of sexual misconduct with young boys tarnished the entertainer's reputation. To date, 5 individuals have publicly accused Jackson: Jordy Chandler, Jason Francia, Gavin Arvizo, Wade Robson, and Jimmy Safechuck. Their stories are very similar. Former bodyguard Matt Fidesz told Metro that Jackson's efforts to maintain a mysterious image, quote, backfired on him when the molestation accusations became public. In a statement obtained by The Guardian, Jackson said he was devastated by a 2003 Martin Bashir documentary that strongly implied Jackson was abusing young boys. In 2019, HBO released Leaving Neverland, a documentary that follows the stories of Wade Robson and Jimmy Safechuck. In a statement provided to People, Jackson's estate said they both testified under oath that Michael never did anything inappropriate toward them. However, as 2005 Jackson trial prosecutor Ron Zonin told Vanity Fair, it's normal for male victims to wait to report abuse, quote, on their terms. The Jackson family filed a $100 million lawsuit in an attempt to stop production of Leaving Neverland. It didn't work. However, as Variety noted in 2020, the estate won an appeal.
Technically, the decision was just that this case can go to private arbitration. But what that really means is that the lawsuit stays alive.
Michael Jackson loved the stage as much as the stage loved him, and the London concert series would have been a thriller for fans. This Is It vocal director Dorian Holley described Jackson's final rehearsal to Time, saying, "He was just glowing, and you could see it, that he was finally seeing it all come together for the first time. It was a big moment." According to ABC News, choreographer Travis Payne said Jackson was, quote, happier than he'd been in years while rehearsing for the This Is It concert series. Promoter Randy Phillips also recalled the positive energy behind the scenes, telling ABC News, "We all had goosebumps. I'd never seen such exultation in the cast and crew. This Is It was intended to be both a comeback and one last hurrah for Jackson." As The Independent reported, when he announced the residency at the O2 Arena in London, Jackson said,
"And when I say this is it really means this is it."
An abusive father, the loss of a brother, and the most famous halftime show ever. Would you believe we've only scratched the surface? Stay tuned to find out tragic details about Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson was born on May 16, 1966 in Gary, Indiana. According to biography, Mom Katherine Jackson was a homemaker and talented singer-piano player in her own right, while Dad Joe Jackson worked as a U.S. steel crane operator. Music and faith were key parts of the Jacksons' family life, but while Janet has always seemed particularly close with her mother, the pop culture icon had a very different relationship with her father. Telling Marie Claire, "The sound of his car stopped us cold. We'd scatter like roaches, off to our rooms, ducking down low so as not to be visible through the windows. We didn't know what mood Joseph was bringing home." While Janet's late brother, Michael Jackson, often spoke out about Joe's infamous physical and emotional abuse toward him and his brothers, she revealed on Piers Morgan Live that her father once hit her when she was 8 years old. Noting that she didn't agree with Joe's abusive parenting, Janet reflected, "I wish our relationship was different, but I know that he loves me." In 1982, Janet Jackson released her first self-titled album, but she was much more known for her screen work. She'd warmed the hearts of millions as Penny Gordon Woods in the sitcom Good Times, and her acting career continued to blossom with another gig on Different Strokes. With her stunning looks and natural dance ability, it seemed only fitting that Jackson landed a role on the 4th season of Fame, but her time on the TV spin-off of the hit 80s movie only lasted 1 season, and rumors soon emerged that some members of the teen cast felt they weren't treated fairly by the producers. Though we can't confirm that allegation, Jackson candidly opened up about her experience during a 2012 interview with Anderson Cooper.
I have to tell you, I didn't enjoy it at all.
Why?
I didn't want to be there.
The singer spoke fondly of her castmates, but admitted that they would play pranks on her, such as smoking marijuana outside her bungalow and giving her a headache, or stealing her breakfast on set. Noting her secret marriage to James DeBarge at the time, she went on to say, "I was not in a great space. I was 18. I had gone through a lot in my life. I was going through a lot in my marriage, and it was very difficult on a kid." When it comes to her personal life, Janet Jackson has always been notoriously private, but even her famous family were reportedly blindsided when it emerged that the 18-year-old singer-actor and 21-year-old James DeBarge, an R&B singer, had secretly wed in September 1984. While James's brother El DeBarge told the Los Angeles Times that the couple had been dating for a couple years before the marriage, the union still angered both Janet's father Joe Jackson and record executives, who felt the elopement was in conflict with her image. According to the Daily Beast, she was dealing with pressure from her team and also her husband's struggles with drug addiction and depression. This pressure eventually led to Janet filing for an annulment in November 1985. However, rumors soon emerged that she was pregnant with their daughter and had given up the child for adoption. DeBarge himself added fuel to the fire by claiming on Growing Up Hip Hop in 2016 that there was indeed a secret child. However, in a 2001 interview with Vibe, Janet denied the allegation, saying, "They say the kid's in Europe or that one of my brothers or sisters is raising it. But no, I've never had a child." After her annulment from James DeBarge, Janet Jackson began dating her longtime friend, Renee Elizondo Jr. The future director and songwriter had found work as an assistant cameraman when he first met the youngest Jackson. At the time, she was around 15 or 16. Jackson secretly married Elizondo in 1991 and even chose not to inform her father. Elizondo went on to direct his wife in music videos like That's the Way Love Goes and Together Again. And in September 1993, the hitmaker appeared topless on the cover of Rolling Stone, with the hands of her husband covering her breasts. But by January 1999, the pair announced in a joint statement that they were to separate. This also marked the first time it was publicly confirmed they were legally married. Jackson's ex-husband later filed a spousal support lawsuit against her. The case was eventually settled for around $10 million in 2003. Jackson told Entertainment Weekly, "I wish we could have worked it out in a totally different manner. I really do. God knows I tried." In 1997, Janet Jackson released her sixth studio album, The Velvet Rope. The ever-evolving artist had shown fans her cutesy image with her debut and sophomore albums, but the tone of her sixth album was remarkably different. It spawned radio-friendly hits such as Got Till It's Gone and Together Again. But The Velvet Rope also revealed Jackson's longtime struggle with depression, which was touched upon in songs like Empty and I Get Lonely. Talking to Newsweek about the process of making the album, Jackson revealed, "I was very, very sad, very down. I couldn't get up sometimes. There were times when I felt very hopeless and helpless, and I felt like walls were kind of closing in on me." During a 2018 interview with Essence, Jackson further shared that factors like, quote, childhood feelings of inferiority and issues revolving around racism and sexism in society compounded her depression, but added that she, quote, found her way through it. By the early 1980s, the HIV/AIDS crisis began to spread around the world. The epidemic would affect every community and creed, killing millions over the next few decades, but also disproportionately impacted men in the gay community. For her part, Janet Jackson sadly lost friends to AIDS complications, but has long expressed public support for the LGBTQ+ community, including through her song Together Again off her 1997 album, The Velvet Rope. Donating some of the tune's proceeds to the American Foundation for AIDS Research in her ongoing support for their quest to find a permanent cure, Jackson opened up about the meaning behind her 8th #1 single, explaining, "I believe we have other lives. I don't believe in the finality of death. I wanted to write about friends who have died of AIDS without being mournful or sad. I wanted to celebrate their spirit." As Style explained, Jackson also sang openly about same-sex relationships and combating homophobia on The Velvet Rope. In addition to propelling her to the status of a bona fide gay icon, her efforts were honored in 2008 when she received the Vanguard Award at the GLAAD Media Awards. When Janet Jackson was announced as the halftime show performer for the 2004 Super Bowl, little did she know that her performance would still be making headlines to this day. As Jackson danced seductively with Justin Timberlake during the song Rock Your Body, the former NSYNC singer delivered the lyric, "Bet I'll have you naked by the end of this song." As he sang those fateful lines, Timberlake pulled at the right side of Jackson's corset-style top, exposing her bare breast. In a statement to E!, Jackson's rep made it clear that the, quote, wardrobe malfunction was not meant to happen, explaining, "Justin was supposed to pull away the rubber bustier to reveal a red lace bra. The garment collapsed and her breast was accidentally revealed."
He was to take and rip the piece off that he did.
The leather piece.
Right, but more came off than what was supposed to.
BBC News reports that over 450,000 people complained to the Federal Communications Commission over the so-called Nipplegate, leaving CBS to publicly apologize and pay out a $550,000 fine. The fallout from the headline-making incident at the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show was infamously unevenly placed on Jackson, and her multifaceted career suffered for it. Per Shadow and Act, Jackson was meant to lead a planned movie on the life of singer-activist Lena Horne, who was allegedly so outraged that she demanded the star be removed from the film. Meanwhile, according to HuffPost, former CBS chairman Les Moonves reportedly banned Jackson from the Grammy Awards that same year, but allowed Timberlake to perform at the ceremony following an apology. According to Rolling Stone, several radio stations and channels stopped playing Jackson's songs and music videos, which hurt the performance of her album Demita Joe, The woman who made a name and career for herself by churning out hit after hit for decades was basically blacklisted by the music industry. In 2021, Timberlake apologized to Jackson on Instagram, admitting that he didn't speak up about the double standard, adding, "I fell short in these moments and benefited from a system that condones misogyny and racism." Janet Jackson has long been idolized worldwide for her strong physique and great smile, but the hitmaker sadly developed body dysmorphia during childhood, noting that she began to cope by overeating. Jackson told the New York Daily News in 1998, "I'd look in the mirror and hate myself. I'd sit and cry. It was so hard for me to look at myself and find something that I liked, not just physically, but something that was good in me." While Jackson was only 10 when she was cast on the TV show Good Times, she revealed in her 2011 book, True You, A Journey to Finding and Loving Yourself, that she was told that she needed to lose weight. Speaking with Meredith Vieira, she revealed how the constant ridicule she received from her older brothers fed into her insecurity over her appearance and led her to self-harm. Previously speaking with The Telegraph in 2010, Janet noted that she'd struggled with bouts of binge eating, bulimia, and anorexia. Despite these brave admissions throughout her career, Janet Jackson's post-pregnancy body was cruelly scrutinized by many media outlets soon after she gave birth to her son in 2017. While working on the set of Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married Too?, Janet Jackson learned of older brother Michael Jackson's untimely death at the age of 50.
I was at my house in New York. Another day, another morning, and I get a call.
She'd last seen him the previous month during a huge family get-together, telling Harper's Bazaar, "We had so much fun that day. We kept calling each other after and saying how great it was." It later emerged that Michael had struggled with an addiction to narcotics, and his official cause of death from an overdose was later ruled a homicide. The drug had been improperly administered by Michael's personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, who was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in 2011. For her part, Janet personally placed the blame on Murray, telling ABC's Robin Roberts, "He was the one that was administering. I think he is responsible." Janet reflected in her 2011 memoir, writing, "I can't describe the pain in losing our brother, or the pain of his children losing their father, or the pain of my parents in losing their son." After going through 2 difficult marriages and a heartbreaking split from her partner of 8 years, Jermaine Dupri, by 2009, Janet Jackson still longed for love and had hopes of one day becoming a mother. The following year, the singer-actor had a real-life meet-cute with billionaire businessman Wissam Almana. According to Page 6, the duo married 2 years later in a private ceremony and moved to London. But according to sources cited by the Daily Mail, cracks eventually started to appear in the union due to their alleged cultural differences. While this claim was later denied by Janet's brother, Randy Jackson, some of her prayers were answered in 2017 when the couple welcomed their first child together. But just 4 months later, she and Almana announced their separation. Randy alleged to People, "It was quite an abusive situation. It came on later in the relationship, verbal abuse and being made to feel like a prisoner in her own home. No pregnant woman needs to go through being called a every day. That's what she went through." Almana denied these abuse allegations, and the divorce resulted in a nasty custody battle over their son. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website,